Family members are sharing a meal discussing the impact of computers on the lives of people today. One person dominates the conversation, explaining how digital transmission will render many businesses obsolete in the future. One might surmise that the speaker at the centre of this discussion is the 29-year-old computer systems engineer seated at the head of the table. Wrong. It is his 78-year-old grandfather, Tony Miller. Tony was born in Cesme in 1921 in an area called Asia Minor, which is located off the coast of Turkey. Tony's early childhood was spent on the Greek island of Chios as a refugee. His Greek family had been forced to flee for their lives one night in 1922 as the Turkish army advanced towards their home. Tony hit the ground running in a situation where each family member had to pull their own weight and where the families who survived were the ones who were the most prepared, determined and tenacious. Tony's family arrived in Australia in 1924 as refugees, and at the age of 5 he trotted off to school without a word of English. He grew up in a home in West End, attended the local school with his brothers and 3 sisters. Later, Tony served with the Australian Defence Forces in New Guinea in World War II and married Mary Gerdes when he returned home in 1946. They raised 3 daughters while he operated his own electrical retail and repair business from the late 1940s to the early 1970s. Meanwhile, he gained his senior certificate and later science and education degrees through evening studies. He then commenced a second career as a lecturer at the age of 51 at the South Brisbane College of TAFE. At 65, Tony formally retired from the workforce. By this time he was officer in charge of the Electronics and Communications Department. "I loved what I did," he said, "and they paid me to do it. It doesn't get any better than that." The day he retired from his second career was a happy one, but Tony was not yet ready to stop running. At 68 he began his third career. He went into partnership in a video store business with a son-in-law. Not as a silent partner, but as a 7-day-a-week, 8 hours a day working partner. Tony brought his business savvy to this new venture. His ageing appearance is deceptive. The little boy who was a refugee still lurks behind the aged exterior, and he's game for anything. Tony is still running, successfully. He has always been a keen amateur sportsman, keeping fit, eating well and following a healthy lifestyle. 15 years ago, Tony developed rheumatoid arthritis. It stopped him in his tracks. He faced a life of pain, taking medication and greatly reduced activity. He was determined to find another solution, and this he did, in the form of diet and vitamin therapy, which restored him to good health. He resumed his physical activity, and to this day begins his mornings with a half-hour jog. Many older folk seek the company of the young. In Tony's case, younger folk seek his company. His conversation is a combination of current thinking blended with the wisdom of his years. He reads widely, from New Scientist magazines to contemporary science and philosophy books. His energy and joy in his 8 grandchildren are indefatigable. He can discuss computers with the eldest, helps the teens with their maths and physics homework, and builds cubby houses with the youngest. He is young at heart and in spirit. Tony is an ordinary man who is quietly extraordinary. "How are you?" "Never better," he replies with a boyish grin and a twinkle in his eye, and he means it. He and Mary consider themselves truly blessed, and they have enjoyed 51 happy years together and have lived to watch their children and grandchildren thrive in times more peaceful than their forebears. Tony Miller hasn't stopped running and shows no sign of slowing down. Long may you continue to run your race through life, Tony, showing others how to go forward. You are an example of a life well lived. Your children, grandchildren, relatives and friends value you and salute you.